people listening who may not be familiar, if you could speak to your experience representing Stone Foltz and his family.
Yeah, well, I'll even go back to, we represented first Colin Wyant at Ohio University, who was killed in a hazing incident when he was forced to ingest whippets, and it had a terrible adverse impact on him. And we investigated and found out that it was a fraternity hazing situation. We were off to the races there. Stone Foltz was a little clearer in the sense that Stone died as a result of a hazing ritual involving the entire pledge class. And what happened on March 4th, 2021 is in the Pike fraternity, Stone and his pledge brothers were brought into a house. They were dressed up. They were told to take their ties off, blindfold themselves. They were ushered down to a basement. Blindfold is taken off, and their big brother is announced, and their big brother has an entire bottle of alcohol that they then pass to their little brother, the pledge, and they are told to finish the bottle before they can leave the basement. The actives have previously told the pledges to email their professors because they're probably not going to be at school the next day. They are told to bring a loaf of bread and a gallon of water, and they have chairs put up for them with garbage cans right next to the chairs so that they can vomit in the garbage cans. Stone was given an entire liter of Evan Williams bourbon, and Stone was 150 pounds. He wasn't a big drinker. He had confided to his mom that he was really worried and nervous about the event before it happened. He had Googled on his how to drink a large amount of alcohol in a short period of time. I think his strategy was to try to get it over as quickly as possible, to try to rip the Band-Aid off. And at the same time, he's being told by his active brothers, right, that they're going to take care of him. He's going to be safe. He's not going to feel too good the next day, but everything's going to be okay. He does it, and within a very short period of time, he's incapacitated. We have video. He just looks terrible. They're making fun of him, by the way, at the point in time that he's clearly going downhill. They then drive him home to his apartment, put him on the couch, face down, with a trash can right next to him, and then they leave. A half an hour later, his roommate comes home, and Stone's in the last moments of his life. He's having trouble breathing. His roommate begins CPR. They get the first responders there. They get him to the hospital. When he got to the hospital, his blood alcohol was 0.394, and he had less than 9% of his brain activity available to him. He was effectively brain dead. And what his mom and dad then, who by the way were 2.5 hours away, they had to endure that drive all the way up to Toledo, Ohio, knowing that their son was probably not going to make it. And for the next 3 days, they sat at his bedside while doctors got his organs healthy enough to harvest to donate. Stone got a driver's license when he was 16, not because, like most of us, he wanted to drive, but because he wanted to be an organ donor. And they sure enough did that. He donated his heart, lungs, tissue, went to 132 different people. An amazing job was done around the organ donation. But imagine that. You're sitting at your son's bedside for 3 days simply because we're trying to get his organs healthy enough to give to somebody else. And Stone's parents made him a promise. And I've made a promise to Stone through his parents. And that promise was that they would never leave him alone again. They would never forget him. And that's what this whole mission to end hazing is all about.
And it's interesting hearing this. Maybe I'm so far removed from college, but I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, what the hell are people thinking?
It's senseless. And part of the problem is that every single year, it's got to get a little more challenging for the people that come along, right? I went through it, so I got to make it a little tougher for the next person around. That's the reason I've called for an end to pledge programs across the country. They're antiquated, they're archaic, there's absolutely no purpose for a pledge program anymore. And that's where all these deaths and injuries are occurring, because there's an imbalance of power. The actives have something the pledges want. The pledges go through a process. At some point, they become invested, and they're so far down the path, there's no turning back. And think about it for a second, too. These 18 and 19-year-old kids are on a college campus. They're living independently for the first time in their lives. The last thing they'd want to do is quit something they started, be maybe shamed on campus, and so on and so forth. And so I think we need to eliminate pledge programs if we want the Greek system to survive. Because in my view, one more death on a college campus in this country is too much.